Right. So before we begin, I know that I said that the meetup would be about marketing your practice, and it is. But before we begin, I'm going to give each of you the opportunity, and just briefly, to say anything that is of concern to you when it comes to your practice or abundance. So whoever wants, let's Hope start, because yeah, I'm just looking at you in the order that I've seen you. So yeah.
The main thing I have is I still, no matter how many sessions I've done, no matter how much work I've done around this, I still have that belief that if I charge more, I won't get the clients.
Okay. And
So
Irina?
I'm stuck on that.
Right.
My main concern, I think I don't have that enough of trust in whatever it is that I will get the clients when I need. And yeah, mine is trust now.
All right. And Eden?
Hi, everybody.
Hiya.
I'm carrying the same belief that Hope carries with her. That if I charge more than I'm charging today, people won't want to come, even though other practitioners that are doing what I'm doing in Israel are charging more. So yeah, I need to work on it.
Okay, and Susan?
I wrestle with the I wrestle with the charging also, but I always feel like I think no matter how many courses I've taken, no matter what, am I gonna be good enough? Because I just feel like, or there's just not enough. There's not enough clients. There's not a, I just can't seem to, I can't seem to be successful, and I have an extensive background. It's like, I don't know what I'm missing.
Okay.
Confidence, whatever. I don't know.
Okay. So I'm going to turn this into a mini workshop, because I always do. But this time I'm intentionally doing so. So if you listen to everything that you all said, it's all about how you feel and your perception about things. Just pause on that for a moment. So it doesn't matter how many law of attraction books you read or workshops you take, it still comes back to you, what's going on within you. So what I'm going to share with you is a few steps about consciousness. So, hi Sabrina, since you've just joined, just very quickly, do you mind sharing with us, just very briefly, any concerns that you may have about marketing your practice or abundance?
Marketing, it would be people that I already know or know from the past having a reaction that isn't supportive.
Okay. So what I just said that you just missed, so I'll just repeat it, is that, and you didn't hear what the other said, but you can re-listen to the video after if you want to. What everyone has said, including yourself, has to do with you, your belief, your perception, rather than the reality of what is. So in other words, you can take as many workshops as you want. You can do all the law of attraction, meditations, mantras, everything, but nothing changes because, oh, I love goosebumps. Yes. So this is where we're going. I never planned these meetups. That just goes where it goes, and I just felt it. Right. Let's go back to basics. You're practitioners. You work at the multidimensional fields. You work with consciousness. You realize, or you should by now, that there's multi-levels of awareness, and that consciousness is vast, and that people have their own beliefs and limits. And so therefore, if you go back, and I always like to go back to Tesla, what he said, because it's just simple, basic, and brilliant. Break down everything about creation to vibration, frequency, and energy. And we know that because we can be in different vibrational bodies if we're in deep meditation or what you might call astral traveling or out of body or near-death experiences. And we can see that our physical body is still functioning, it's still there, and we're aware of it from looking at it perspective. So we know that. We hear clients tell us these things. We've explored our own history to some degree, so we know that. So why do you not apply what you know? Because it's what's factual. So if we take it to a basic level, the energy fields that you are plugged into, the consciousness streams that you are plugged into is what holds these beliefs in place. Just pause on that for a moment. It has nothing to do with simply it's because of me. It's that I am plugged into consciousness streams that hold these beliefs. And so the idea is to go back to basics and realize that as souls coming into this reality, we did not come into this reality without knowing where we were going. Michael Newton's work has described and explored how in the planning stages we see in advance different stages to see if it's the right life that we're coming into. All souls that came in at this time knew we were coming into a time of change. We've all come in for different reasons, but we're in a duality system and we're in a place of balance and harmony that flows through these dualities. And so therefore, your belief about abundance, about yourself is flawed if your life isn't abundant. And abundant doesn't mean you have to be rich. It might simply mean that your needs are met. It might simply mean that you can focus on other things because you don't have to worry about having the things you want, because you're not plugged into vibrational fields that holds beliefs that there is a limitation to the universe. So the start of anything is start with your belief. So if you just think for a moment, you don't have to actually close your eyes and just take a deep breath in and just bring to mind, so we don't need to hear anyone's stories, but just bring to mind all the worst things that you feel about yourself in relations to others, about abundance, about lack, about worry, all the things that you don't like. You can't seem to help yourself being aware of them or going back to them. And then just do the usual of just scanning your body to see if you can feel or you're aware of the energy of these things in your body. And then you can open your eyes, so it doesn't need to be a long time. Who wants to share anything that's come to mind or what they notice in their body?
I feel it in my heart.
And what do you notice there?
I feel this kind of construction, like contraction. I don't know how to explain it. Like
Okay,
it's
so you
heavy
don't
on my
have to
heart.
explain, really. I just asked just to get an idea. But
Yeah.
the reality is the mere fact that you've connected with that, it goes beyond words. Words are so limiting. Words are like a conclusion. I've got abandonment issues. What does that mean? It doesn't tell you the ripple effect of how that would impact on my life. And so therefore, that's why it's important you connect with the feeling or the awareness, because what you've actually just done in those moments is connected with the energy fields that hold these things in place. Think about that. It's all consciousness streams. And consciousness streams are information. And so when you connect with what you think and feel, you connect with the source or the energy fields that holds those things in place. And that's why some thoughts can make us feel really great and other thoughts can make us feel yucky. Anyone else want to share anything they noticed?
I'll just chime in that it was the same for me. It went right to my heart and felt like grief, really.
Excellent. Hold on to that, because what you're going to start doing is connecting the dots. Consciousness streams change primarily through a shift in consciousness and awareness. It's like I've now shifted gears simply because this thought or this awareness takes me into another place. Anyone else want to share anything?
I could feel it across my back, right across my shoulders, all the way across.
And what did it feel like?
Just like a tension, a tightness. Just a hard tension and a tightness right across the back of my shoulders.
Okay, so everyone close their eyes again and take a deep breath in. And when you exhale, just let yourself go back to the worst client that you had to work with that made you feel the worst. And just bring to mind all of the feelings that you had at that time, how you felt when they left, how you felt during the session, or what they said, or whatever. And then do the usual of just scanning your body and just seeing what you notice. And then you can open your eyes. You don't need to stay in that place a long time. Anyone want to share anything?
This time it was still across the back, but it feels like it came all the way straight through my chest, like encompassed the whole area around. Just
I'll tell you why I smile in a minute. Anyone else want to share anything?
I had a really strong sensation in my throat, like a contraction, like a grabbing. I was like almost wanted to cry, like I couldn't speak.
Interesting. Anyone else? Right, so imagine for a moment that the reality of your life is that every day you're walking around, but you've numbed yourself to what you're feeling in your body. And what you're feeling in your body, because you numbed yourself, is from the feeling is what controls your belief about yourself and your work and your interactions with others or your worth, if that makes sense. So the first step of any change is to realize, okay, this hand represents our multidimensional self, our soul, they're all labels, our spiritual self, spiritual, they're consciousness fields. And consciousness, as we know, is in everything, animals, plants, nature, everything. And this hand represents our physical self. And so our physical self is what keeps us focused in whatever's going on because of what we've wired into our beliefs and our perception and all that stuff. But we know that we are multidimensional. We know that when we daydream, when we go into alpha, when we listen to something we really like and it takes us away, when we zone out, when we walk the dog, when we do mundane things. And so we know that there's more to us than this. So I've said that before, I've said it in a different way now. So the first step is to believe, and not just to believe, but to know that you are soul essence, let's use that term, in this reality from a higher perspective of awareness of why you would come into this reality. And that's the part of you that knows that you are divine, you are connected to the infinite. You don't have to be religious. You don't even have to be spiritual. You know that there's a part of you that goes beyond explaining it to your friends or your loved ones. You know that you have dreams. You know that you might have weird things happen, synchronicities, deja vus. We know that there's far more to life than what we've thought. And so that part of us that came into this reality knew what it was coming into, and therefore it is fully equipped. It is us that hasn't connected, let the gears slot in to flow into that. So you need to all begin with, what is my real feeling about divinity, about soul, about what we call light? What is your perception of that? And a lot of people confuse it with religion and God. Do you know, it's like certain people, you mention anything that has Jesus in it, not because you're talking about religion as such, but it's like, oh, I can't listen to that or turn that up. So you've got to bypass the concepts that the world has placed around us, because that's the matrix that holds us in this belief system. They're really just things that create an obstacle course for souls to grow through. But you know, you're in a different place. You sit and you listen to people tell you things from the soul perspective, and they don't tell you things in like a grandiose way, like when you're listening to some channels on YouTube and they're all, you know, somewhere else and, you know, dearly beloved and all that stuff. They're talking to you in a very much the same way we all talk to each other. And so you know that it's time. The world is changing, you're shifting from what was into what you actually really want. And so it's time to look at, what is your belief about your connection with your inner source? What is your belief about that? That's a starting point. And if you have a belief about that, then you need to question and challenge it, because you need to go beyond belief into knowing. Belief is something of the mind. It's a mental construct. Knowing is where every cell in our body knows it, because it's grounded. So therefore it's functioning. It's like gears that slot. If you've seen the inside of a clock, it's the gears slot into place. And that's what happens when you're grounded. You slot into, everything slots into place, including the Schumann resonance, including your connection from above and below, with all of your chakras and organs and everything. And so you have to ground things to actually know them. And so your beliefs and what your beliefs are always going to be flawed, because what beliefs do is they create stories for us to have experiences. And it might very well be that some of you, if not all, are at a place where you want to move beyond the stories and just live your life and do what you've come here to do. Which doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It just means my gears have slotted into place and know who I am. And I might not know all about me, but I know I'm comfortable enough with this person called me. I know that, you know, I'm experiencing life as a human, but I also have a connection with divinity. And you know that because think about every time you breathe with that conscious breath, how it makes you feel, how it grounds you, and how it brings awareness, or even with your clients. Think about that for a moment. So anything I've said, anyone want to ask any questions? Because we're going to move on a bit. No questions, so that's completely understood.
I guess I do have one question. So conceptually, what you're saying makes sense, but in our conscious everyday life, can we almost channel switch to a different belief that easily?
Not if you're grounded, because then if you're grounded, you can observe, you can accept all kinds of potentials and possibilities. You can explore them and still come back to who you are. Think of it this way. We're in a duality system. And from what you've just said, it's the focus of the separation. So the duality, when it comes to the separation, is I'm separate from my divine self. I'm so out here on the limb that I don't even realize that I'm connected, I'm separate. So that's a duality in itself. But the duality I want to talk about is in this duality system, which Earth is, I don't know if everywhere is, but this is what we're in. That duality, people like to think things have to be this or that. And that's where all the dogma and beliefs and institutionalized thinking and concepts and stuff, because I'm glad you used the word concepts, because they're concepts. And concepts are always constructs of our mind. So the duality is where most people are stuck in is things have to be this or that. For example, with what someone said, I have to be able to not have my friends be critical of my work for me to do my work. Someone else says, well, I can't really charge them because I don't really feel that great. Do you see what I mean? It's this or that. Let me tell you something. Oof, I love it. Where we're going as a race, a human race, is out of that duality into a third system, which is balance. This and that. We're in a planet of diversity. And so, of course, you can explore all kinds of different things, but you got to know how to come back into balance. Only if you're balanced, in other words, you're in your body, can you be grounded. Otherwise, you know, you're going to be on the edge and off balance.
Yes. What you're saying makes sense. It's reminding me that we aren't a collection of beliefs. It's not who we are. Like we aren't a personality, which is just a collection of beliefs.
Let's just touch on personality for a second. Every single thing that most people think about as their personality is nothing more than coping strategies we created early enough in our life to keep us safe. It's all about being safe. And being safe might simply mean I have to shut myself down. Being safe might be I can't express myself. So whatever beliefs we create is going to continue keeping us plugged into those energy fields. And that's why it's so powerful when you do soul retrievals, because you disconnect from those energy fields and go back to who you were before you got plugged into them. So let's go back to abundance for a moment. Everything I've just said, think about it for actually just take a deep breath in and close your eyes and just reflect on the things I've just said, but personalize them to yourself, to anything that resonates with you, and just see what comes up for you. Perhaps what thoughts or feelings. And then in a moment, I'm going to ask you in your own time though, to just take another nice deep breath in. And when you exhale, you'll have more clarity around what you think. And just see what you realize or what comes to you. And if nothing comes to you, that's fine too. So don't force anything. And then just breathe in deeply again. And this time when you exhale, just imagine it flows from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And just see what your thoughts or feelings are, what stands out for you. And then you can open your eyes. Did anything come to you, Rena?
I was waiting for you to ask me. Well, a lot of things came, but the main thing was that I really need to tune in words for that answers and really trust what's coming without trying to analyze it as it comes and not to be afraid to apply it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And actually that's that action, that's what matters. Yeah, that's the main thing.
Thanks. Susan. Did anything come to you?
Yeah, it's remembering, and I have all these pieces coming together so beautifully. Is just to keep remembering that it's all a projection. It's all a projection of my thoughts, and just to keep reminding myself that. Keep reminding, when I have those thoughts, or when things aren't showing up, it's just remembering
So
that,
pause
yeah,
for a moment.
I've created my reality by projecting.
Pause for a moment and just close your eyes and just go back to one of those times where those kind of things come up. And then just see who it reminds you of. How you're feeling in that time.
I feel the tightness in my chest.
Mm.
And even, yeah, in my neck, in my head. It's like all the, and it's a feeling of being ungrounded and gripped.
Now
And
just breathe
yeah,
in
and
deeply.
even I can.
Just breathe in deeply now. And as you exhale, just go back to another time where you felt that same kind of feeling. And just see what comes to mind. Your subconscious will just let something come to mind. Just be curious and see what your first thoughts or feelings are. Or even how big or small you feel.
It feels overwhelming.
And so does that mean if you were to imagine, go on, what were you going to say?
Yeah, it feels overwhelming and like a big weight. So I start to feel, I almost start to collapse.
And if you were just to focus just for a moment on that weight, how would you describe it?
First word is crushing. It's like it's pushing me down, keeping me small.
So just breathe in deeply once more. And as you exhale, you'll know more about that. You'll understand what else comes to you about that crushing. Might be a person, place, thing.
It feels larger than a person. It feels like really feels more like a mass consciousness. It's
So
big.
just breathe in that awareness. It's like downloading more information. And as you exhale, you'll understand a bit more about this mass consciousness.
I feel myself actually wanting to straighten up and own myself.
Oh, well, you just go right ahead and do that. Tell me what happens when
Yeah,
you do.
I feel like this no inside of me, no.
You just do
No.
whatever you feel like doing. And if you breathe in deeply, your inner team will help you. And then see what happens now.
It's a taking back. It's a taking back of my power.
You want to take it back?
Yes.
Well, you just go
And I
right ahead.
feel that.
Well,
Yes.
just go right ahead and just breathe in deeply. And as you exhale, just spend a few moments just breathing in that awareness and that power. It's like connecting with those energy fields, and you can revisit this in your own time and connect so many more dots in your life. But just spend a few moments just breathing it in. What you're actually doing is you're bringing yourself in those fields of now that new awareness into alignment. It's like letting the gears slot in. And so you'll have awareness over the next days and perhaps weeks or even longer about things connecting or connected to taking your power back or why or whatever. And that's the information that you're going to be able to use to help others. Because you've now, I love it, you've now shifted from where so many people who are coming to you will come. And when they come to you, you're not going to be afraid of being in that space with them. And so part of your practice is that you're not attracting people because parts of us are uncomfortable with certain things, or we're not in alignment in a place that we can help them in wherever they want to be. So if you think about it symbolically, practitioners oftentimes, because they have skills, they have knowledge, training, feel that they're at the top of the mountain and they want to drag people up to where they know their knowledge, they're this, they're that. And the reality is we have to go in the valley and be with the people rather than judging them, rather than, well, I don't want to hear that, or, let me resolve things, let me rescue you, all that kind of stuff, because it's about what we're plugged into and connected within ourselves. So every time, for example, you would have been with a client, you would have felt disempowered unless things were really great. And what that does is it sets you up for failure because you're never going to allow the envelope to be pushed so that you can grow. Because what the clients do is they take us through an expansion of consciousness simply by being in that space with them. Sometimes it's the things they say that affects and connects with us or moves us in some way. It's like we're getting spiritual teachings in a very natural way. That has nothing to do with concepts and belief systems and who said what, when, and where. It's that you're in that space. And because you're in that calmness of that space, you're also in a receptive space. But oftentimes for practitioners, they're actually blocking the client because they're in their head. So I'm going to tell you just very briefly what all that in your head stuff. Irina, you, from what you said, you're very in your head. There's a few I've noticed in the group, very in their head. They're very. So let me tell you what a lot of that in your head stuff is, that left brain stuff. It's father issues. And it doesn't have to be because was a bad person. He could have very much been in your life, but been emotionally absent. Or not giving you, or not giving you what a father from an energetic masculine energy. I'm not talking about gender. I'm talking about how energy works in a masculine or feminine way, which is really left brain, right brain, or reptilian or complex brain compared to the mammalian brain. So it's all these dualities, but it's the same thing. So when I say energy, I don't mean a physical body. But when our fathers do not give us whatever that we feel we need from a father, then we'll create that phantom father in our own mind, which means what we have to keep trying to figure things out. Because what masculine energy is, it's if you looked at it symbolically, it would be like a straight line or like an arrow from me to what I want. And I got to take these steps and figure out how to do it. Whereas feminine energy is like, I don't know why I feel the way I do, but I just feel to do this particular thing. I just got this feeling. Because it's heart, it's intuition, it's inner. Whereas the masculine it's an outer for take this step. That's why the R complex reptilian brain, and so popular reptilians at the minute, because we're evolving from that reptilian brain. But that reptilian brain is into rituals. And I don't mean like nasty rituals, that's part of the darker stuff, but I'm talking about the ritual of if I take this step and that step and that step, I'll get what I want. Feminine energy is like, I don't know why I feel to do this, but I woke up this morning And I just thought, I need to call this person or do this thing. And so it's more receptive to what your inner promptings will guide you to. And so a person who is always trying to control things and figure it out, what happens is when we don't have our Father in our lives guiding us, giving us instructions, we have to do things on our own. And when we do, we never know if we've done it right. So we're always in this place, I got to figure it out, I got to make it work. It's all this critique is we don't have that inner knowing of it's okay to do it. I've got the information. So if I don't do it completely right, let me see how I can figure I can do it better, because that's where growth comes in. But when you're in the space where you feel you have to control it, then you're not going to allow the growth. And you're also going to control the session energetically, because it's got to be this way and follow this way, if that makes sense.
I have two questions.
Mhm.
So one is like, what about the role of grandfather? Is it like replacing the role of father, or it's still a different
Masculine
role?
energy can come through from uncles, grandfather, anyone, but to a child, they might have a specific thing because of the story that comes with their father. And so that's why you can have someone brought up with the best, happiest, loving family, but they discover they've got a mother, father somewhere. It's like, right, I'm off to discover because I feel some, I don't know, inner connection or something I want to know. And it will always often come back to how we feel about ourselves. Everything is about ourselves, really. And so if we do have that, let's just say grandpa kind of replaced it, but every night I thought, well, dad doesn't love me. If he did, he'd be here or whatever. So this feelings and the thoughts is always going to underride the actual actions. And so it's never, well, it is important what adults do to us as children, absolutely. But what's more important is our reaction to them, because that's what then forms what we call our personality. What was your second question?
The second one was like, I completely agree with all that. And it's like really tiring because I feel it and I want to fix it, but I can't.
Right.
Like, it's
You
so
can't fix
exhausting.
You cannot fix it. You have to
So
just
what to
change
do?
it.
How
Fixing is
can
your
we-
mental mind coming up with, I need to do a solution.
right.
You just simply change your mind.
Do you have a
It's
tip?
like, so that was the way it was, and that's him, that's it, he's on his own journey. But that's not going to be my reality. I've had enough. And then you just foster that change. There's not a magic pill that shifts consciousness. Even if you have a psychedelic event that opens it up, you still gotta have to sort out what it opened up. And so there is no one that's going to fix your mind, but it's like one step at a time. So today, I'm just going to do something different. It's called interrupting the pattern. So my usual pattern of thinking habits, let me just interrupt it today. Do something different today. Do you know, otherwise it's like being on a one-way system, a loop. I keep thinking the same thing and I keep having the same thing and I'm just going on the same thing and it doesn't work and I just keep there. So whatever is going on, it might be that you just simply realize, you know what, for some reason I haven't discovered yet, my soul thought it was okay to, that was the experience I needed. And so let me see what I gained from that. I, the most toxic mother, I cannot tell you, but boy, did I learn a lot of stuff. I would have liked to learn it in other ways, but you know, I might not have learned it then. And everything that happened, I'm sure if I was to explore everything, I would find connections in my other lifetimes. So, you know, was it really about her? Because nothing that you experienced with your dad, you will find is not a random thing. It will always be connected. Because it's like, right, why am I feeling this way? Oh, this showed up in a past life. This showed up in early childhood. And so it's about you. He's just like a marker of consciousness to make you either have the experience or the awareness or have a choice. For whatever reason, I don't know, I've not explored your history, but at some point you just say, oh, I either change the pattern or my kids are going to have to change it, because that's what happens. We don't change it, next generation has to change it. We change it, shifts that ripple effect out into the consciousness connected with the family. Right. Anyone else had a question of any kind? So let's bring this back to your practice. Think in terms of all that we've just explored in the last, or talked about in the last 45 minutes. And now think about your practice, you're working with others, and just see what your thoughts are and what things come up for you in relations to the things you said earlier or anything else really. Hope, what comes up for you? What do you realize about yourself or your way of things?
That that I'm a divine being, just as everyone else who does the same things that I'm doing, like other practitioners that have the same practice that are charging 3, 4, 5 times as much as what I'm charging. And I should be able to have the confidence to know that I have the skills. I know how to help people. I know how to, I know how to basically do everything that they're doing. And why not? I get the same abundance, the same, be able to charge the same and have the confidence to know that the right people will be brought to me or be attracted to my business or whatever. I'm not really good at putting that into words.
Re-listen to the video after and listen to everything you've said. Everything you said, you spoke from a negative.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Just think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
And so every approach that you have with your practice is from a negative.
Oh, well, that's enlightening.
And so therefore, your buzz is when people give you feedback that's positive.
Yeah.
It's like a drug.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I have a client,
it's like an addictive feeling.
Yeah.
Which sets up, I need others to make me feel good about myself.
Oh.
Just pause on that for a moment. And that is your approach with your clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I have a client
just
that has
don't even say anything, just close your eyes and just take a deep breath in. And just imagine that breath just flows from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And just spend a moment just doing that. And then open your eyes and tell me what you realize about everything that we've covered today. What comes to you at this moment?
I'm drawing a blank right now.
Perfect. You're out of your head. Excellent. Excellent. You're out of your left brain and you're out of your head. That's perfect. Because from a blank, you can create a picture, a design, a story. It's a creation. You can do anything. Just think about that for a moment. It's like suddenly all that busy, it's like it was gone.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Eden. Is she still with us? There we go.
Yeah, I'm here. I feel like I want to acknowledge my worthiness more.
And how would you do that?
I really don't know. I know that I want to deprogram this belief that I'm not worthy, or maybe I don't have enough
pause for a
knowledge.
second. Okay, we're in a duality system. So let's just flip the switch from I'm not worthy. So just daydream and imagine what would you be doing if you were worthy? Just say the first things that come to mind. And be
Um,
specific.
Yeah, the first thing was that I'm gonna promote myself more and charge.
You're not being specific. So close your eyes for a moment, and I can't see you, but I'm just going to
Yeah,
go
I'm
with it.
closing my eyes.
So close your eyes and take a nice, slow, deep breath in. And when you exhale, just imagine it just flows from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. All you're doing is you're bringing your life force into your body. You're grounding yourself simply. You're slotting in your gears. And so just now do that without me talking. And then when you've done that, just kind of daydream, even if you can't imagine how it's possible, your work in the future, which could be as soon as tomorrow, today, 2 months from now, 6 weeks, whatever. And just see what's the first things that come to mind as you daydream.
I felt like I'm magnetizing the right clients.
And so describe these right clients and what makes some clients wrong. Why judge them? Why limit yourself to who you're willing to help or not?
I'm willing
Why
to help.
block off what some of the universe, which is really your higher
I'm
self?
willing to help all the people that want to help themselves.
How are you going to do that?
I'm gonna change my vibration, I guess.
How are you going to do that? We can't change our vibration. It's vibration is the outcome of what we think, feel, and how we're connected. Yeah. And so we cannot change from the outside. What I'd suggest is that if any of you want a little practice, or even an exchange, work with Eden and let her go back to the source of whatever's going on for her. I don't have time to do that right now, but it's time you started using your skills with each other because you benefit yourself. But anyway, Sabrina.
What's coming up for me is when you were talking about the father and the theme about being protected, being provided for, even that nourishment, and then the aspect of deserving those things, having not received them as a child from the father. I'm stepping into adulthood, having those old beliefs that, oh, my dad didn't give it to me, so I don't deserve it.
And sorry, go on.
Yeah, so the work is stepping out of that story that was a story that was put there as a child, and stepping into the adult version of myself as a different story.
And Susan? Susan?
You're on mute.
Oh, yeah, she's
There we go.
mute.
Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, what was the question? I kind of
what's come to you when you think about your future and anything that you've
and that's
yes,
and that's where I was in my head thinking about my future. It's having a beautiful office. I had to move recently, and I said, oh my God, where am I going to see clients? And within an hour, somebody called me and they said, I thought about you. There's an office space available. And I go into, and I went and I looked at it, but the fear that comes up is, okay, now how am I going to pay for it? It's like, and I feel like I have to keep breathing and letting it go and trusting that, look, this showed up, just trust that. That's
so
okay.
you have to forget about trust because you're back in your head.
Okay.
And so
yeah.
One of the first things that you have to start doing, once again, is the knowing. And we cannot know things if we're not grateful for them. And so that's why oftentimes prayer does not work, because in our prayers, we're hoping and we're believing and we don't know. So for example, it's time to start retraining your thinking. And so rather than saying, I'm hoping, say, thank you for this coming in time for me.
Mm,
Thank you
and
for
feeling it.
this.
Yeah.
Think about that for a moment.
Um,
Thank you for all the clients coming. I mean,
yeah. And
for
and
example, so,
go ahead.
what were you going to say?
I was just, it was just going to say, and I can see, and it's a process, because it's feeling it in a moment and then feeling the fear come up, and then like you said, okay, ground that down, get out of my head, even if it's just feeling the fear and the doubt in the moment that's what's
Or
here.
observing it and just seeing it there, because it's a part of life. And why I asked you who those things reminded you of, because when you start reflecting, you'll realize it will remind you of things in the family. It will remind you of things that one parent or the other or an adult said as a child that you accepted as a belief. Money doesn't grow on trees. This is your last pair of shoes you'll ever have, or whatever. And if you think about it from a perspective of consciousness and coming in from that soul's perspective, how else are you going to understand and learn about the human condition to even be in a position to help them if you don't understand how they might feel having those experiences? And besides that, you're changing your mind and opening up your awareness shifts it in those families you're born into. But how do you change things if you don't carry the energy to shift that? And just think about anytime you might be somewhere, a stranger can come up to you and start talking about deeply personal stuff. And you think, well, geez, how do they know they can talk to me about abuse or this or that? And it's simply because energy fields recognize energy fields. And so these a lot of new age beliefs that I just think are complete crap, and they're actually designed to trap the ego. But all this nonsense about I want the right people to come, and I'm not just talking about you for saying that, Eden, but it's just a belief that practitioners and people have. When you say I want the right people, by default, we're in a duality system. You're saying there's a lot of wrong people.
Mm.
So what kind of a practitioner are you? If you're already in a judgment before that person's even opened the door. And if you're dependent on them for your adrenaline rush, then look at the addictive habits in your life journey and pattern, because you'll discover you're in another form of addiction. You can see it with a lot of practitioners who switch from one addiction to another. And you'll see it with your clients. And sometimes we just get also addicted to our emotions. My mother, I studied that woman, I died trying to figure her out. She was addicted to her emotions. But whoa, don't I find I'm addicted to my emotions in a different way. And by addiction, I don't mean my mother was just off, she couldn't control her emotions. It was just, she was off all the time in one emotion or another. But my addiction to my emotion is that I can go back and reflect about this and that with, especially like my, relationship ones, those intimate ones, like just go back and, do you know what I mean? Instead of just saying, right, you don't have to inspect that anymore. So it's like you're plugged into the same thing, but we manifest it differently. So if lack of worth is in you, you'll see that in your family, but everyone will manifest it differently. And then you have to realize, are you, or are you your family? Are you your experiences, or have you come in? Think of it this way. The best organic food is grown on a farm with crap. But when you eat it at the end and get all that nutrition, you don't have to eat the crap. So the ways we learn in our life stories, all that traumatic and all that unsettling stuff, but we don't have to carry the way we learn for the rest of our life. And just because it's a part of the family's, mythology doesn't mean it has to be yours. Unless you still have stuff to learn about that. And so, Susan, very quickly, why would a client feel unworthy or feel that they can't present themselves to the world or be successful? If such a client came to you, what would you think?
What would I think? It's their belief system. It's how they were raised. It's how they were programmed that they weren't good enough. Whether it was things they were told or by example, it's an imprint.
Right. So there's your answer to yourself.
Yeah. So I'm ready to let it go.
Right. Anyone have anything they want to say? Any final question, word, anything? Yeah, go on.
I wanted to share about what you just said, how we reflect to our clients and attract the same, because I talked to so many practitioners and no one had that many left brain clients that I had. It was like mind blowing to me. I was first couldn't understand why I'm getting all them. And when I got 3 in 1 week who couldn't go under, then I started realizing that that's teaching me so much, like how I need to react and reflect and what I need to do about myself to be able to work with people like that. So I truly believe that each client that we have is just for our healing purposes, for our learning and
energy
like
fields
evolving.
attract energy fields.
Yeah, for
Opposites
sure.
repel. But you said something very interesting, and that might be a part of why you have problems. Hypnosis, the old belief is people go under. They don't go under. There's no thing, under what? Underwear.
Mhm.
That's an old belief. And so if you're expecting clients to go under, they never will. If you look at it from a scientific perspective, we expand brainwaves. We go into alpha, theta, delta, and they're all expansions of consciousness. And that's why it's so easy to just zone out. Did you go under? No, I might have been running or doing something so physically active, because joggers will just zone out. Am I under? No, I'm still running. But I've expanded and opened up the qualities and fields of consciousness.
I would say then let go and trust the process. That's the problem.
I would say that your clients are reacting to your beliefs. And if you didn't have those beliefs, your approach would be different. And so therefore your client's response would be different.
Right.
As practitioners, we set the energy tone. It's like when you go to someone's house, they set the tone. And it's no different. And so if you set the tone with a client that there's restrictions or you're tense, they're going to respond to your tension. Think about it. Think about someone you go to for the first time. Let's just say you go see a doctor for the first time, or someone that's important, and you're like, they're all sitting and they're all acting tense, or they're interrogating you in a more tense way. Or, they're not as comfortable with what they're saying because you can kind of feel it because your intuition's like, then you're just going to have that kind of a dance with them. It's an energy thing. And so it might very well be that before you work, you also do your breath, but you also do things that relax you. And you don't even have to do those, but you like to follow a routine, so it might work for you. But for myself, I would just simply just take that breath and just imagine myself surrounded with maybe golden light or something. I just, create something that in my mind, it's a connection. Because all we do when we do these things with our mind is we just create a ritual that allows us to connect. But they're unnecessary. You know, it's like, okay, right, I got to wait till the full moon so I can do this, that, and the other. It's not really. And so for a left brainer to start going out of their left brain is to let go of the steps. Think about that. See, you're a bit worried now.
I'm afraid to overthink it.
But what comes to you in that moment?
What exactly you mean by steps? Like routine or
Right,
like?
steps are routine. Steps are when the clients come in, it might be that this might be your routine. Why do they come in to see me? What is their problem? What do I need to know about this issue? Suppose this, suppose that, and all these different things, which is all unsettling because it's all about what am I going to do? How am I going to do things? Rather than you could be on a desert island and have the best session because it's about them going into themselves. And all you are is like a tour guide on the bus saying, look over there. Hold your head down now. We're going under the bridge. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're guiding them, but a left brainer tends to think it's up to them. It's not up to you. The client's going into themselves. And so when you listen to all those practitioners with all these steps in preparation, it's like, what are they on about? Your consciousness is with you 24/7. You're plugged into those energy fields 24/7. So why do you need to prepare? All of that stuff is left brain stuff. It's how the conscious mind thinks, well, if I do this, that, and the other, I'll get what I want. It's nonsense. Because you also set the clients up for this expectation and they're like, well, geez, I didn't meditate yesterday. Is it going to work? Or, oops, I drank some coffee, or, oh, I had a joint. Do you know what I mean? I don't want her to know because, you know, I didn't follow. It's nonsense. All of those things are things that the conscious mind creates because the conscious mind is only designed for our physical external reality. That's why it goes to sleep and we can have wild, crazy dreams. And so it doesn't know that it is connected to divinity. That's why we have to go within to even connect. Because the conscious mind, it's like the equivalent of the skin on the body. Does the skin know anything about the bloodstream, the organs? It's not designed to. It's designed to keep looking outwards. It's an interface for the outer and the inner world. That's conscious mind. And so everything that you try to figure out about your client in advance, it's just you going around in your own mind. And so the reality is you don't need to know nothing about them because they are going into themselves and you're going to guide them into themselves. And when they're in that nice, balanced, peaceful place, they don't have a problem. So you need to say, up, can you look over there and get this answer? Because in that relaxed state, it's like they're in harmony, they're balanced. They're no longer into the tension of this and that. They're like, wow, I just feel so relaxed and peaceful. And then from that place of balance, you don't have a problem. And sometimes you'll have clients that are so relaxed, they're like, oh God, I wish you wouldn't talk. Because I'm in such a great place. And so it's not about you. And that's the first thing you have to accept. Your sessions, your interactions with people in this way are not about you. You're a facilitator. Think of it as, I'm the train driver. You know, it's like we think of airline stewards and stewardesses as so fancy and all that. Well, they're waiters and waitresses in reality, but in the air. So ego traps are when we get into the glamour of it. Soul light just goes back to the basics. And so you might have to reflect on how much energy you burn up in advance before you even see the client. So by the time you see the client, you're exhausted.
How do you know?
I could tell you all about all of you. It's just pure psychology. And that should let you realize that everything about you is completely normal given your experiences. So as soul, completely normal. It's our experiences that form that. And so I could describe you without saying I'm giving a reading, simply because that's how humans are. So you're no different. So when I see you, it's really just humans. We're so similar because it's all templates. It's all consciousness streams. So whether it's a belief system or whatever, that's all it is. Anyway, anyone, one last thing before we go. Any questions, anything?
I was
Any
wondering,
comments? Hmm?
yeah, I was gonna ask if anyone else does this after a session. I use, instead of really, well, I do focus on the good things that happened and all the benefits that they got, but then I find myself thinking, oh my God, I wish I had done this. I wish I had asked this. I wish I had done this, but I don't, it's like I don't realize it when I'm actually doing
Yeah,
the
but that's
session.
normal. That's how you
Okay.
grow. That's
Okay.
normal.
All right. Does
That's how
everyone
you
else
grow.
does that?
It's like, wow, you know, I could have done this, or that could
Yeah,
have opened up, or that's how you
yeah,
grow.
okay.
And that's
So
why I'm
I'm,
saying when you limit yourself to certain things, you're not going to be able to grow, because you're not going to have those moments that allow you to have these realizations of what
Yeah.
could be different. I mean, you don't think I woke up one day and I knew everything I know. I just know it from working with people and from figuring out things and my experiences. And it's just a whole bunch of stuff. But every time I come up with something new to help a client, it's only because I've had that difficulty and it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Type of thing. And you create something new and it's like, oh my God. Like, for example, if I was in that writing days like I was back in the early forum days, I would be writing a lot, because every session it's like, oh my God, this happened and I could have thought of this and I never thought of that and this worked
Yeah.
out. And do you know what I mean? And that's how you grow.
okay.
But you have to allow yourself to be in a position to grow, which means that things aren't always going to be comfortable. And if they're not comfortable, you've got to learn how to reframe them. Every situation that's negative, you should know how to reframe on the moment. And so, all right, thanks, Sabrina. So every situation, reframe it. So if something negative happens, reframe it. Think up ways to reframe the negative so that you leave the client in a better place rather than feeling negative. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thanks.
Right, so before we go, everyone close your eyes for a moment. And just take a nice deep breath in. And as you exhale, just imagine yourself just receiving more energy, more connection, more awareness, in whatever way that thought comes to you. And then once you've connected with that, whatever that is, take another nice deep breath. And as you exhale, just imagine yourself completely surrounded by that. So that you're just completely surrounded. And then just imagine breathing in whatever it is that you need. Might be self-worth, empowerment, positivity, calm, peace, whatever. And just spend a few moments just breathing in that feeling, awareness, thought. It's like downloading more information and awareness that's in your own time. Will just allow you to connect some dots. There'll be things that will release. And the release is important because it creates the space for the new. Just spend a few moments breathing in that awareness. You don't even have to think. Because it's energy and consciousness streams that you're connecting with, and they're information. And so once you connect with them, it's like you've accepted them. They'll, in their own time and way, just release the information that's appropriate and unique for you. So just be curious over the next few days of what thoughts or things come to mind. You might be surprised and amazed at a few of them. And now focus on the few things that you're grateful for when it comes to working with others and them exchanging with you financially, because you realize that money is really just created out of the ethers like everything else. It's energy. You don't have to put any beliefs around it. It's just energy. Then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So one last thing I'm going to suggest, which is a mandatory book, I think, for everyone to read. It's called The Science of Getting Rich. And if you've read it already, I suggest you read it again. And you can get free PDFs of it on the internet. But I would suggest you read it. It was written in, I think, maybe the early 1900s. It describes very easily, it's a thin book, but it describes how to think. Because we're in a duality system, there's really only two ways, and how it works. And if you saw the movie The Secret, at the very beginning, she mentions that her life had fallen apart and her daughter gave her a book, but she never mentioned what the book was, and this is the book. So all of Esther Hicks' stories and teachings are created and founded from this book. All of the law of attraction is founded from this book. But the law of attraction isn't as simple as I think something, and so I'm going to have it. You should know that by now, because of all the things you think is going to happen to you, and it never did. Even as a kid, oh, I'm going to get in trouble. And you go home, mom's all happy. It's like, well, it didn't happen. So our thoughts do not create our beliefs, but our thoughts hold the energy fields in place. So I'll leave it at that. So I'd suggest that you all read that, and you don't have to read it from back to front, though you can. It's a very thin book, and just ponder on a few of the things, and then also reflect on your family and perhaps where they are and their journey, and why souls would maybe want to create such hardships or beliefs, and therefore what would pull you into them. Because one of the things, and I keep saying it's the last thing, but this really is, one of the things you have to realize is that everything we can blame about our family or our parents, you will find the connections in other areas in past lives that had nothing to do with your parents. So is it that they really are the ones that have made you feel this way? Or is it that they stimulated what's already within you because it's a part of whatever your soul's journey is, for whatever reason? I don't want to say, could be, one thing or another, but it's a part of your journey that they've instilled and enforced within you. Rather than us, it's like, when we're stuck in the story, we blame. It's like children, you should have fed me. It's like, go cook your own meal. Do you know what I mean? I have a friend who said her 17-year-old doesn't even know how to make an egg sandwich. I'm like, really? Waiting for mom to come home? Suppose, how are you going to eat? So it's the same thing. It's like you want something, you have to go towards it. Right. One last question from anyone or comment, and then we're saying goodbye. Nothing? Eden? Oh, go on, Irina.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Irina?
I don't like, so you mentioned you shouldn't prepare a client anyhow, like ahead, because some like ask for some, well, what should you do? Like drink more water and this and that. So
No.
nothing.
Especially for you, let all of that go. Start training yourself to not be attached to all those things. Think about it. Your consciousness is with you 24/7. So what is drinking water going to do?
Right.
Especially if you
right.
know that during the session, if you need to get up and use the loo, you can, and come back and you go right into that trance. So what is drinking water going to do?
So what about coffee? And then they get all hyper and everything and they can't relax. I don't know. I know. I'm just making I just want you to elaborate on that.
I would let all of those things go. When I send them the confirmation, I send them a comment that says, the only preparation you need is to start focusing on all the things that you'd really like in your life, how you'd like your life to be, especially if you can't imagine how that is. Why do I do that? Because they spent so much time going over the negatives, they don't even dream about what the possibilities are. So I've now set in motion that they're going to start thinking about what they really want, rather than stirring round and round and round in what they don't want. They already know what they don't want. So interrupt the pattern. Let's change that. Focus on what would you really like, even if you can't imagine how it's possible. Because if they could imagine how it's possible, they'd have already done it. So sometimes trance states, so you feed them the obvious and then you tell them something that shifts them. So for a client that says, oh, I can't imagine, that's why, well, even if you can't imagine how it's possible, daydream. And they're like, well, I always did want to write. And when I was young, and it's like, that's a part of who you really are. You've just sidestepped that timeline that connected you with that. That's why soul retrievals are powerful. It connects you back with who you really are, as in who you divinely came in, complete with whatever you're connected with, as your gifts, as your talents, as the things you enjoy. Does that answer your question? All right.
Yes.
All right, everyone. See you later.
Thank
I was going to say one more, but no.
Bye.
That one
Thank
more
you
has
so
gone too
much.
far. All right. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome. See you
Bye-bye.
later. Bye.